U.S. officials say al-Qaeda's #2 was killed this week by a U.S. drone attack into Pakistan. Drones are those pilotless aerial vehicles armed with spy equipment and/or explosives. Drone strikes are difficult to track, but one group says President Obama has authorized almost 300 of them into Pakistan alone since taking office. That is compared to 49 in the last term of the Bush administration. A lengthy list of terrorists have been taken out in these attacks, but a number of organizations say U.S. drone strikes in Pakistan, Yemen, and Somalia have caused hundreds of civilian deaths, angering citizens in those regions and making the U.S. a hard sell even to America-friendly politicians. Drones are not limited to overseas missions. The FAA allows unarmed, spy-equipped drones to patrol the skies over several U.S. cities. That raises privacy concerns on both sides of the aisle. House Homeland Security Committee Chairman Peter King and Congresswoman Lynn Woolsey on the politics of drones. Next. I am joined by House Homeland Security Committee Chairman Peter King of New York and Democratic Congresswoman Lynn Woolsey of California. Thank you both for getting up early this morning. I want to kind of set the stage for this discussion by showing our viewers a couple of statistics. Since the second half of the Bush administration into the Obama administration, there have been a reported 302 drone strikes into northwest Pakistan, about 2,800 people killed, we are told, about 17% of them civilians. Again, these are hard to keep track of. These are not exact numbers, but it's the best estimate. Congresswoman, let me ask you, is anything about that troublesome to you? We are essentially launching these aerial vehicles and dropping or sending bombs into places, and it's fingerprintless. The U.S., does it from someplace else. Are you worried about this at all?
Well, I know I am. It's such a trend to dehumanize warfare, and it's machines and computers doing the job. And you know what, Kenny? This is not video games. These are real people, and it's real death, and we are making real enemies around the world by continuing with our drone program.
And Congressman King, does anything about this, but certainly we can't argue that we want Americans to go in and risk their lives while doing this, because we want Americans protected. On the other hand, do you worry about U.S. imagery, and do you worry that there's never really been much of a debate about the use of these drones?
Kenny, if you just bear with me for a second, because I'm in the Intelligence Committee, I can't officially acknowledge that we have a drone program. But assuming that we do, and assuming the press reports are accurate, I had to say that up front. Yeah, sure. No, I'm not concerned. My belief is that when you're in war, and we are in war, the idea is to kill as many of the enemy as you can with minimal risk of life to your own people. As far as the civilian casualties, every one of them is tragic. But the fact is, in every war, there's a large amount of collateral damage, of civilian casualties, whether it's World War II, whether it's the Korean War. And if we were using ordinary explosives, we would also have those type of civilian deaths. To me, American lives are being saved. The enemy is being killed. We have managed, and I give the president credit for this, to devastate core al-Qaeda. Primarily because of these type attacks, which did begin in the Bush administration, particularly in the last year of the Bush administration, and President Obama has followed them through. I'm not saying these are easy decisions to make, but life isn't easy, war isn't easy. I believe it's essential that we do complete the mission against al-Qaeda, and these drones are obviously a very effective way to do it with a minimal loss of American life.
Congresswoman, what worries you most? I mean, there certainly is the kind of ick factor here when you think, wow, it does seem like a video game. It does sort of seem to take if there is humanity in war, which I think we could probably argue, but nonetheless, it does seem to kind of remove responsibility. But let's say beyond that, what worries you policy-wise about these drone attacks?
Well, Peter, I disagree with Peter. I think the Congress has been left out in this conversation, and I think that is wrong all the way around, particularly about what is a war and what is a conflict that we haven't claimed to be a war. But what I'd like to say, my greatest concern is, the United States is the superpower. We're the standard. People follow what we do. We're setting a standard for all other nations that when they're ready and want to, if they choose, they can send drones at the United States. Why do we want to get into a world and a humanity that wants to live on Earth that way? Why are we not putting our energy into a different kind of security around the world where we invest pennies on the dollar, Candy? We invest in diplomacy. We invest in helping other countries with their development needs, helping them when they want to. I mean, shouldn't impose ourselves, but help them not be angry and not need Al-Qaeda and want to be part of the world organization. Because I think what goes around comes around, and those drones are going to come right back at us.
And Congressman, what do you think about that? Because that question has been raised, certainly at the White House, from the press corps, saying, well, what if Russia suddenly decided to send drones into a place because there were terrorists that they thought were going to attack Russia? Would we be okay with that?
First, let me say, we never used drones before September 11th, and we still got killed. We had 3,000 Americans killed. So I don't believe drones were encouraging any attacks. What encourages attacks are weakness. And yes, I think we have to assume that the Russians would use drones if they could, just as we had to assume during the Cold War that they would use nuclear weapons. I mean, this isn't like golf where we have a handicap. You give somebody 8 strokes. The fact is we have to use the weapons that we have. And we're up against Al-Qaeda, which is a devious, evil enemy which wants to kill Americans. I wish we could all live in a world where we could hold hands and love each other. The fact is, that's not reality. We have an enemy that wants to kill us. I live in New York. I lost over 150 constituents on 9/11. And if we can save the next 150 by killing Al-Qaeda terrorists with drones, then kill them. I have no compunctions about that whatsoever, and we have to assume there's always going to be an increase in weapons. This has been the history of mankind. That's why we have to make sure that our defense budget is not weakened. Now, we stay ahead of the enemy, and that we are in a position to provide leadership. But again, this stuff about drones making enemies, we use no drones. The only time we used weapons during the 1990s was to defend Muslims in Bosnia and Kosovo, and then they turned around, Al-Qaeda turned around and attacked us on 9/11. There's evil people in the world. Drones aren't evil. People are evil. We are a force of good, and we're using those drones to carry out the policy of righteousness and goodness.
Can I ask you, Congresswoman, about the use of domestic drones, that the FAA does allow certain cities to have drones fly over for, whatever reason, looking for, I don't know, criminal activity, looking for traffic jams, whatever it happens to be. They're equipped with, cameras and things like that, radar. Mm-hmm. Do you have any concerns in terms of privacy here?
Well, I have great concern about privacy all over our country, not just because of drones and our loss of civil rights and civil liberties based on our need for security. I think we're giving up our security in spite of the fact that we're making people more angry at us all over the world. And the very argument that my good colleague Peter King just gave us is what is infuriating the rest of the world. And I too would like to hold hands and be friendly all over the world. And I know we have to be strong, but I think we can be strong with a domestic, helping them with their policies and with diplomacy. And so we don't need to put so much of our funds into war machines and think that we're going to make friends and make this a safe world. We aren't going to. We have to. I mean, we can have tougher and tougher and tougher machines and equipment and more scary, and we can just destroy our world. And
King,
not this year, not tomorrow, but soon.
Congressman King, I just need a really quick answer from you because I'm out of time here, and that is, do you think the domestic use of drones flying over cities to watch several things, does it give you pause at all, or is that okay with you?
I think drones are a legitimate form of law enforcement. Having said that, privacy has to be respected, but you don't have an expectation of privacy if you're in the open. So we're talking about crowds, we're talking about sidewalks. If we're talking about people out in the open, no, there was no expectation of privacy there. And drones were extremely effective as far as trying to spot things that could be happening in a crowd. Certainly if a child has been kidnapped or lost. All those are also along the border to spot illegals coming across the border. That's true. And also, I would just say, as far as the use of drones, we have not been attacked since September 11th, and that's a lot better than holding hands.
Okay, that's the last word there. Thank you so much, Congressman King. Congresswoman Woolsey, thanks for joining us.